So Dustin, take us back before real estate. I mean, what were you doing, man?
Yeah, so I appreciate you guys having me on the show. I love being able to talk to people and share how amazing real estate is. And it's not necessarily real estate's amazing, it's what it can do to your life, to change your life, to be able to do whatever you want. And so I'm successfully unemployed now, which is fantastic, meaning I have a way to make money for my family and myself without working a job. A dead-end job is what I call it. It's a just over broke job. But yeah, before that, I've always been entrepreneurial in my life, just growing up entrepreneurial, starting a couple businesses. But I'll quickly go to the end, which is at 37 years old, I was able to quit my job and become successfully unemployed because I was able to invest in real estate, buying rental property after rental property, residential homes, $250 or more in passive income. And then I was able to quit my job. But let me quickly go back. And I definitely got to give you the story about what catapulted me into becoming an investor. So growing up, I've always been entrepreneurial. And when I was 13 years old, I even had a paper route. That's where you get a newspaper as you ride on your bike and 5 a.m, you throw them really hard and bang them against the garage door, waking people up. So I did that. Also had a graphic and website design company through college, started a skateboard manufacturing business, started a convenience store and a pizzeria, all from the ground up. And At the same time though, just like we're all taught, I was taught this too, that you go to school, you get good grades, then you go to college, get good grades, get thousands and thousands of dollars into debt, then you get a piece of paper. The piece of paper called a degree, and you go hopefully find a job, a job, with that piece of paper. So I was doing that at the same time of having businesses. Businesses were doing okay, but I was always going down that track that most people or all of us are taught. Now, I got to definitely tell you a story. So I bought 1 or 2 properties, rental properties, basically making me $250 a month in passive income. And I knew that I wanted to become an investor, but life gets in the way, job and everything else get in the way. My wife and I started having kids. And so the story starts with when my wife had our 4th child. So I'm working a regular 9-to-5 desk job at a local county in California, local government county. And I was working a 9-to-5 job, IT job, sit down every day, 9 to 5. And my wife had kid after kid. Eventually we had our 4th child. When our 4th child was born, I went on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom and changes poopy diapers and bonds with the baby and does all that good stuff with a mommy. And then I go back to work. So a week or 2 off for paternity leave. That week that I get back to work, my child's like 3 weeks old. I get back to work, and on a Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon, I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog. I get a call from her, and she says, "Dustin, would you please come to the office?" And I said, "Sure." And then I hung up the phone, and I sat there in my chair, and I paused for a second. I thought, why would they be calling me to the office? Like, this isn't normal. This is weird. And at the same time, I started remembering a couple months before I went on paternity leave, there was some rumors or some rumblings going on in the office in the county that there could potentially be layoffs. I was like, no way. I have so much seniority, 12, 13 years working here. My bosses know I do a great job. There's no way. I immediately shook that off. Then I get up and I start walking down the hallway to my boss's office. Now, this hallway isn't very long. In fact, it's kind of short, but every step that I took, it felt like the hallway got longer and longer and longer. And it felt like my feet became lead bricks and every step became labored. It was really hard to walk. And then the weight of everything and potentially losing my job started crushing down on my shoulders. Well, I make it down the hallway and I turn the corner and I see my boss's door. His door is closed and I look at his secretary and she looks at me and sheepishly, she grins at me and says, "Dustin, would you please have a seat?" Super nice lady. She's consoling me with her eyes, trying to give me encouragement because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. So I go and I take my seat and I sit there waiting for the door to open to my boss's office. And as I sit there, I start thinking about, oh my goodness, all these years of working what I was told, get good grades and eventually get a job and work till you're 65 and retire on what you've saved up your entire life. It's like, oh my goodness, was that all a waste? If I lose my job now, like all those years, was that a waste? And then I start realizing, oh my goodness, if I can't provide for my family, I don't make any money from my job. How am I going to provide for my family? Does that make me a failure as a father? Does that make me a failure as a husband, as a man trying to provide for his family? Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy. My forehead gets all sweaty because of the weight is just crushing down on me. Then the door to my boss's office opens up. Out walks a coworker of mine, a lady, with a piece of paper in her hands. And she is noticeably distraught, noticeably upset, but not necessarily crying, but you can tell her world has absolutely been rocked. Well, she passes by me and my boss says, Dustin, would you please come into my office? He hands me a piece of paper and I get laid off. And remember, this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. And so if it happened to me, it can happen to anybody. Well, I take that piece of paper and I walk back down that small, short hallway to my office and I sit there and I realize two things sitting right then and there. And I'm telling the story because I want everybody else to also learn these two things. So number one, I needed to get another job. I need to be able to provide for my family. And so, put food on our table, roof over our heads. So I was really blessed, praise the Lord, to be able to find another job in the same county at a whole nother department. And then I started buying property after property. But here's the other thing. This is the second thing. This is the thing that everybody needs to realize. Your value is more than anybody can ever pay you. So as I'm sitting there, I realized that when anybody ever asked me the question, Dustin, what do you do? I would immediately answer, I work for the county. I do technology work for the county. Basically, I'm presenting to everybody, my value is in my job. And I realized my value doesn't come from my job. My value comes from my God, from myself, and from my family. And so right then and there, I realized this, that now I'm never going to tell anybody that my job, my value is in my job. I now told everybody I am a full-time investor. My value is now that I'm an investor. When everybody asks me, Dustin, what do you do? I'd say I am an investor because I had one or two properties, but life got in the way. I realized I'm not going to let that ever get in the way. And it may so happen that 100% of my money comes from my job. That's now my part-time job. I am a full-time investor. Fast forward now, finish out the story that I bought property at this new job, working great, 6-7 years there, bought property after property after property, making $250 or more from every single property every single month. And then after 30 plus properties, I realized, oh my goodness, even though I'm making $75,000 a year here, why am I still working? I'm losing money. So I went to my new boss. I routed the story by saying, I went to my new boss and I gave him his 2 weeks notice. I said, boss, I'm laying you off. Jokingly in way saying that. And he said, Dustin, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't have to do anything. I literally own real estate that makes me money without working. So I left and I walked to my car the very, very last time. It's a 1.5 mile walk. I've taken this walk 1,000 times because I didn't want to pay for parking. It was in downtown. And so it was a 1.5 mile walk compared to the first walk. It was a short hallway, got worse and worse with lead feet. I felt like this last walk, I was walking on clouds because I knew I would never, ever need a job again because of the real estate, the investing that I did. So I'll pause that story and let you guys ask questions because you guys probably have plenty.
I think that's such an awesome story. And it gets me like, I'm like getting some chills because like what you did is really what people will profess to be like the dream. And you actually went and you did it. I'm curious, over what period of time was it from the first layoff to when you became successfully unemployed?
It was probably about 5 or 6 years. I'll say 6 years is probably the time because I bought property after property. Now I had 1 or 2 properties first, so I kind of understood what to do. And then I just said, I full force said, we're not going to go on vacation. We're not going to go out to dinner. We're not going to do any of that stuff because every penny that didn't go to a property was that much further for me to be able to become financially independent and make sure that nobody had the ability to take away my ability to feed my family.
You know, Joe, it makes me think of that statement that Gary has said before, Gary Keller, that we repeat all the time. And it doesn't matter what aspect of your life, your real estate business, your investing, whatever, that people they overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and they underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years. And that's, I mean, exactly what you did with consistency over a 5-6 year period. You really were able to deliver that paper back to your boss.
Yeah, Dustin, I'm curious to dive a little bit deeper into those first couple of acquisitions where you were working a primary job and you were not a professional real estate anything at the time. What were some of the major lessons learned? How did you find the resources and everything you needed to make those first few deals come together to give you this momentum?
Yeah. So I started investing back in 2006 and living in California at the time. I live in Arizona now, but living in California at the time, in 2006, prices were just going up and I couldn't buy a house and make passive income because that's what I invest for, is for passive income. Like I said, $250 a month from every property because I wanted to be able to feed my family. Now, the properties there was so expensive and I couldn't rent them for enough to make passive income. So what I did was I bought in Ohio, of all places, flew to Ohio. Actually, I'll pause this by saying this is the wrong way to do it. This is the way I don't do this now. Everything I'm going to tell you of how I did it, it's the wrong way. I'll quickly go over it, but I will also tell you the right way, at least how I teach all my students now and how I do it in all my businesses. I invest all over the country and same with my students. So I flew out to Ohio, never fly out anymore. Like out of all the 30 plus properties that I own, I've only seen one of them. And so just to give you that heads up, I don't go fly anywhere anymore, but I flew out there. Remember, this is the wrong way. Flew out there, found a property manager and a realtor and put them together, bought a house and said, hey, I have a property that's going to be making me money. The sad thing about that is I started losing money in 6 months. Actually, no, not just losing money. My property manager started stealing from me in 6 months because I didn't know what I was doing. I was following what everybody else, all the other quote unquote coaches, gurus, like those infomercials where you go at midnight, you watch the infomercial. Okay, we're going to be here at your city, and we're going to be, it's free. And then you go there, and they pump you up, and they said, okay, now run to the back and go give us $20,000. I was following those people. So they said, you go and you find an area of the country to invest. Then you find a property. Then remember, this is the wrong way. You run the numbers. You make sure you make a little bit of money in passive income, like $50, $100. You make a little money in passive income. Then you spend thousands of dollars to buy the property. Then you spend thousands of dollars to fix up the property. Then you find a tenant to live in there. Then you find a property manager to be in there. In my opinion, that's just about backwards. What we do, or what I do now with Master Passive Income, all the coaching, but also in my own investing business, I build the business first. Now, I'll tell you what building business first. This is literally, so the first time, like I said, my property manager started stealing from me really quickly. And remember, I've also said I've always been entrepreneurial. So I approached the first couple properties the wrong way. What other people told me, they said, your property is a business. My opinion, no. Your property is not your business. You build a business and that business owns inventory. So let me explain how that works now. What we do now is we build the business first. And this is what it looks like. If you're going to start a convenience store, you're not going to sign a lease and open the doors to a location and set a box of candy bars in there. You would go out of business in 2 seconds. What you would do, though, is you would build the business first. You get the gondolas. Those are the shelving units that all the candy bars go on. You get the fountain machines, countertops, cold storage, bank accounts, cash registers, insurance, all this other employees, everything before you buy any inventory. Same thing with real estate investing. If you're investing next to you, like in the same city or 1,000 miles away in another state, you do this first. You build the business. And this is what it looks like. You find all the right people in your business. Property managers. I love property managers. They basically, I don't work at all. And so my property managers do all the work. My realtors do all the work. Wholesalers, inspectors, plumbers, roofers, contractors, mortgage brokers, insurance agents. I find all the right people and literally interview them, call them on the phone, talk to them, make sure that they're right for the business, interview them first, build the business so I have people working in my business, then I buy inventory. So that's what you do is you realize you build your business and then you buy inventory and that inventory goes into your business. Because the amazing thing about real estate investing is if you do it right, if you build the business, you can scale your business really, really well. Now, I'll give the example of how I scaled my business to be able to quit my job and be successfully employed. I realized if I bought one house that may be $250 a month in passive income, that's after all the expenses are paid, I made a profit of $250 a month. That is $3,000 a year without working. 10 properties, just multiply that out. 10 properties is $2,500 a month. That is $30,000 a year without working. 20 properties is $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year, again, without working. And you have that money. So I knew I needed $4,200 to replace my income, count my expenses for my family. So I realized if I get to 20 properties, I can quit. So that is how I scaled the business and grew it. But that was the big thing was I realized after my property manager started stealing from me, I need to build a business. Now that business owns inventory. So does that all make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I think that, if you don't have the right people, there's a book out there, Who Not How, and it's always more important to have the who before the how. I've never heard it positioned as your asset is the inventory of your business, but I think it helps your mind when going through that example. So I really appreciate you bringing that. I'm curious, how did you arrive then at, I mean, you mentioned the 4,200 a month that had to replace it. How did you arrive at 250? Because, a question that Joe and I get a lot is like, okay, am I worried about cash on cash return? Am I worried about cap rate? Am I worried about, blah, 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 blah. And we know that real estate investing has so many different types of benefits. For you, how did you arrive at, I'm going to focus on the cash flow and it's going to be at that number, 250 a month?
Yeah, no, honestly, like it's said a lot, but this is a really good question. So more than just saying that as a good question, this is a really good question because I'll tell you right now, Dave and Joe, I am not that smart. In fact, I know you guys are much smarter than me, and all of your listeners are probably much, much smarter than me. With real estate investing, what it comes down to me is it's passive income because I need to be able to provide for my family. But then at the same time, I needed to make sure that all my expenses are covered. So here's how I got to the $250 mark. So number one, I'll quickly say this, and you guys will definitely understand this. I don't pay on any of my properties, I don't pay my taxes. I don't pay my mortgage. I don't pay my property manager. I don't pay for repairs. I don't pay for any of that stuff. I don't even pay for my property manager. My tenants pay for all of that. It so happens that the money goes into me and out through all these bills, but I don't have to get a job to get a property manager. I don't have to get a job to pay for my mortgage. And so that was number one. I needed to make sure that all my expenses were covered. Then I started realizing, because I just covered all those expenses. Then I realized if there were any problems in any of my properties. Now, remember, I'm saving for repairs and capital expenses, big things and vacancy factor. I'm saving for that, but that's not a ton of money. I also realized I need money to live on, number one. And I wanted to accelerate how fast I was able to quit my job. So the more profit, more passive income, the better. But at the same time, I needed a buffer so that, let's say, God forbid, a roof goes out. That's going to be what, $6,000, probably $7,000. Well, if you're only making $100 a month, like other people will tell you, that's only $1,200 a year in profit. Now, what are you going to feed your family if, like, let's say there's a vacancy 1 month and you have, a big mortgage payment of $1,000? There goes all your profits for the entire year. So I realized that I needed to add in a buffer. And so what also on top of that, I said, well, what would be a good buffer? Well, if I had $3,000 a year at minimum from every property, that'll be a huge buffer as I continue to grow the business. Like I said, once you have 10 properties, that is $30,000 a year to be able to feed your family. So all that combined, counting all my expenses, making sure that I could also account for CapEx and all that sort of stuff. But here, your question, Dave, was great, was talking about like cash on cash return. I agree. Actually, a lot of my students ask me about cash on cash return, cap rate, all that sort of stuff. I was like, you know what? I'm not that smart. I break it down. I try to make it as simple as possible because that's what I need. I need $250 a month with as little money coming out of my pocket as possible. Meaning, if I'm going to buy a house that I need to spend $100,000 of my own money to make $250 a month, obviously cash on cash return. But you think about it. Would I give somebody $100,000 to only make $250 a month when I could instead use $10,000 to make $250 a month? That seems much more appealing. Right. So instead of using, because I found my students don't all get the numbers, cash on cash return. They don't understand cap rate. It's hard for them to get it. So I'm trying to let me break it down to you. If you're going to spend $100,000 to get $250, would it be better to only spend 10 grand to get $250? Well, here's also one quick thing. I'll let you guys ask questions too. But I had literally just a coaching call yesterday. One student is going to buy a property, and this is what he's doing. He's using his home equity line of credit to buy a house. Now he's using all of his home equity line of credit to buy the house for cash, and for I think it's like $80,000 to buy this house. And yes, there are homes less than $100,000 in the Midwest and the East. If you live on the coastlines, you don't realize that, but there are properties. Anyways, he's using 80 grand of his home equity line of credit to buy this house for cash. It's going to passive income $250. He's going to refinance, pull that cash back out of that house that he's buying, that new property, to pay off his home equity line of credit. And with that, he's literally having zero of his own money out of his own pocket. Like, he doesn't have to get a job to save up 10 grand to buy this property. It's literally borrowing money from his current residence, buying this house, and then using that house to refinance, pull the cash back to pay out that next, his home equity line of credit. And he's still making $250 a month. So he has $0 coming out of his pocket to make $250. So does that all make sense?
It totally makes sense.
It makes a ton of sense. I'm glad we're talking about funding and financing because it's probably the most common question I get from people who are interested in investing. Hey, Joe, I love the vision. I want to own real estate too. I don't have a bunch of money to invest. How can I get there faster? You just gave us one really good example, Dustin, of how you can leverage existing equity in one property and use that as a down payment in another. If you don't mind me asking, what are some additional ways and maybe some ways that you used early on in your career to kind of get that momentum rolling?
I have a lot of them, so I'll definitely go over a few of them. But here's to add on to what you just said. So I have my own YouTube channel, Master Passive Income, where it's just me just coaching, just teaching, showing people how to do this. I have one video where I show 14 or 15 different ways to finance that I've done, finance your properties. Now, here's the thing. Remember, when I first said this, you got to build the business first. Your number one person in your team, in your business, is your property manager. Well, guess which, if I have a property manager video and a finance video, which one gets the most views and which ones get no views? The property manager, which is the most important part of your business, gets literally no views. I teach how to find the right ones, how to make sure they're managing right. Oh, like literally, this is what you need. But people don't watch that. People go right to the financing video and they watch that. Like, how do I get money for it? But honestly, the financing is not hard. And I'll give you a few different ways to get financing, creative ways to get financing. But here's the great thing. If you have a good deal, making passive income, it's a good deal for your investor, you're going to find somebody to invest. I guarantee you, like, come to me, I'll probably invest. I have lots of students that will buy these properties from you. So if you have a good deal, you're going to be able to get the money. Now, thinking about other ways to get financing, I love being creative. In fact, with all my students, what I love to do is I give them all the options that are out there, because most people think, well, I just get a mortgage and then I get a realtor and then I put them together and I buy a house. Well, there's more ways through. That's just one way. So conventional loan, fantastic. Cash, fantastic. Refinance, pull the cash back out, which is another way. But you can also do private money. I love doing private money, different terms, meaning different interest rates, different points, and all that sort of stuff. Hard money is another. In fact, like, I'm going to gloss over these. So there's so much more to learn, but I'll give you a few of them just so that you can get an understanding of what's out there and then go learn more. Hard money is another one. I've used signature loans. That's literally where you walk into a bank, your local credit union, and say, hey, can I get an unsecured line of credit on my personal, like a credit, for your own personal credit? And they say, sure, $10,000, $15,000. It's a higher interest because it's more risk and everything like that. But that's another way. Here's another fun one. I've even used a credit card to buy a house. So I got a credit card that had, it was like, I don't know, $15,000 credit. And I could sign my name on those little not a fake, but like those checks that they give you, those blank checks. And it was like a 0.05% interest for the life of the loan. I said, oh my goodness, that is so cheap money. Yes, I'm doing it. And so I used that credit card. Now, remember, it's an advanced strategy. This is advanced. I knew my business. I knew I could buy a property right away with it. But I use that. Another couple ways, commercial loans. We start our businesses before we buy the first property. We start an LLC, we get an EIN number, we get a business bank account, because that starts our business credit. So in the future, let's say 3 or 4 years down the line, you have 5, 6 properties, then you have your business credit built, then you can get business credit or business loans to buy your next property. I've even done portfolio loans. Another portfolio loans is basically you're a bank. They lend you their own money. I've done bundle loans. I bundled 4 properties together, got a commercial loan over all 4 of those properties, one basic loan for 4 properties, bundled all them together because I use my business credit. Oh, there's so many other ways, but that's a big broad overview of a bunch of them.
Well, I think the key point that I would make, and I know Joe believes this and you do too, it's if the deal that you have is truly a deal, the money follows. I mean, you essentially said that. And I think that was something that early in my career, at least, I had to remember, because there is a little bit of that mind block. And that's why the YouTube videos get, all the hits on that. And then you actually start acquiring the properties, and you do realize that it's the property manager that becomes the most important piece of the equation. And so, I wanted to ask you, like, the property manager in your first deal is stealing money from you. That obviously taught you some things. So, like, how do you now protect against that?
Yeah,
like, how do you vet your property managers?
You guys ask great questions. So this is a fantastic question. Now, like you just mentioned, my property manager started stealing from me within 6 months. How I vet that out is in building the business. If you're going to build any business, a brick and mortar business, you have your own inventory and all that sort of stuff, you're going to interview people, right? You're not going to interview an employee by texting them. You're not going to interview them by emailing them. You're not going to just take their reference and say, okay, great, you're hired. Their resume. What you're going to do, though, is you're literally going to interview every single person that's going to be working in your business. So here's what I do now. So the bad thing, remember, I just found a property manager. Oh, you say you're a property manager. You're trustworthy because I'm trustworthy. So I think you're trustworthy. Eventually it didn't work out. But what I do, though, is I teach, this is what I do, but I also teach all my students. What we do is we interview multiple property managers in whatever area that we are investing. And so let's say 3, 4, 5, 6, I tell my students, you keep interviewing your property managers until you find a good one. You just keep doing that over and over again. And texting is not interviewing. Email is not interviewing. Phone calls are literal interviews. So this is what you're going to look out for. And so, David, to answer your question with finding the right property manager, number one, interview multiple times, not just one phone call. A lot of people can be good on one phone call, but over 2 or 3 phone calls, we'll see if they're good all the time. But you want to make sure that they're trustworthy. Where you talk to them on the phone, most people can at least get a sense if somebody's a shyster or somebody's like pulling the wool over their eyes. You can kind of get a sense after a couple phone calls. So make sure that they're trustworthy. Can they communicate? I'm big on communication. If I text or call or email my property manager and I don't get a reply within 24 hours, I'm like, what's going on? Like, I'm freaking out. This is my money. This is what I live on. So I make sure that they have a 24-hour turnaround time on any communication. That should be easy. Then also, do they have experience? Do they already have properties that they're already managing? And on top of that, you can ask them for references, but at the same time, when you're talking to them on the phone, on the interview, and I literally give my students, I have 22 questions that we go through and ask the property managers and also the answers to what they should be replying. If after you ask them basically lots of questions, if they don't sound like they know what they're doing, they don't have answers to these questions, they're normal questions that property managers should answer. If they're not answering them well, you're like, man, maybe this person might not be the best person for the job. So all that to say, we interview. That's the best thing we do for our property managers.
Obviously something that's worth spending the time on the front end instead of making the mistake and learning the hard way. So great advice for all the listeners. Dustin, I want to clarify one point as far as the way that you're able to hold the properties. You mentioned a variety of different types of financing. My understanding is that there's only so many actual mortgages one person can have at a given time. And in your case, with 30 properties, I imagine some of those, maybe you paid for cash or using equity or other people's money. How do you get over that personal limit, if you will, as far as how many mortgages you can hold so that you can continue to build that portfolio?
Yeah, so you guys are asking really good questions. So the banks would normally say 4 mortgages is what they are, their requirement, not requirements, they're the cap, but it's not necessarily a cap. The law is from the IRS, 10 mortgages on your person. But here's the thing, as we're building our business, we have business credit. And we can get around a lot of things. So I'll give you a couple options. Number one, if you're investing with your spouse, you can put 10 properties in your name and 10 properties in your spouse's name. Then you got 20 properties. So that's a way to do it. That's one. Now, another way is, let's say, and this is what I do now, I go directly to commercial loans on my properties. Now, I do have some conventional, but I try to get them out of conventional so I can use that to buy the next property. So I use commercial loans all the time. Commercial loans are fantastic because, well, they're a little harder, higher interest rate, different terms, like a 5-year term, and then you have to refinance it, so it's different. But remember, I've already accounted for these expenses before I buy the property. So I make sure that I am able to now move it into a commercial property to free up a spot for the conventional loans. So that's in a nutshell, what we're going to be doing is we're building a business, buying them first in our own personal name, getting regular conventional loans. But as your business gets bigger and bigger, you're going to be able to utilize your business credit. And I've also even been blessed because I've been investing for a while, saving up money. By the time I was quitting my job, my wife said, hey, if you're going to quit your job, you need to get rid of some of these mortgages. I'm like, oh man, that's money that I could buy more properties. She says, I don't care. You need to pay off these mortgages so we have less in expenses. I'm like, well, okay, we'll go do that. So I've been blessed now. I literally have, out of the 30 plus properties I own, I think I have 1 conventional loan on all of them and 1 bundle loan over 4 or 5 properties. The other ones are free and clear, which is a huge blessing. And now all that passive income coming in, I literally just buy houses cash refinance and pull the cash out to buy another one. Eventually I'm pay off that one because when I refinance it, I'll pay it off after a couple, 2 or 3 years. So I free up that whole other slot. So there's a lot of options to do all of this stuff.
So talk to me specifically a bit about the first time you go in to get commercial lending on this. We had a friend of mine, Destiny Marshall, come in to my office and she taught how she had scaled to 30 units in under 3 years. And she's about 26 years old now. And she's killing it. And key in her strategy was commercial lending. So are you keeping a P&L then, treating this like a business? You're keeping a P&L on this property, and then you're going to the bank with that P&L. Are they typically looking at a year P&L to start lending you commercial financing? Is it a couple? Like what am I going to face when I go into that local bank to get commercial lending?
Yeah, great question too. So as you're going to go to commercial lending, they're not. If you're going to get a conventional loan, they just make sure, hey, do you have a W-2? Are you going to be able to pay back the loan? It's super simple compared to commercial loans. So when you get your commercial loan, they're not going to just want to make sure that the property is going to perform well. They're also going to make sure that you're going to be able to manage it well. Like you need experience as well. If you are going to buy your first property and you go to a bank and you say, hey, bank, commercial lending, I've never bought a property before. I've never managed properties before, but I want to buy it with a commercial loan. They're going to say no. Literally, they won't laugh at you, but they'll say, no, you need to have experience. So experience is number one. They need to make sure, because when you get a commercial loan, the great thing about it is you literally it's a non-recourse loan against you as a person. It goes against the company. So when all my properties that are in commercial loans, they're only in the, my property is, the company's LLC. So the name for the mortgage is under the company, not my name. In fact, it's a requirement. If I own the house myself and it's under my own personal name, a bank would want to do a commercial loan. They'll say, we got to take it out of your name and put it into the bank's name. Your company's name. Yes, your business name. As well as with that on the mortgage is just going to be the business name on there, which is great. So yes, you need to have experience, number one. Number two, having a profit and loss on your properties, whatever you're going to be bringing to them. Now I have bought property. No, have I bought properties with commercial outright? No, I haven't. So I have not personally gone and say, let me buy a house with commercial. It's always after the fact, because now I'm blessed to be able to buy with cash and then refinance it with a commercial loan. But yes, you want to be able to show your experience. Now, if you're refinancing a house, you've only owned it for like 6 months, because the seasoning period of having it for 6 months before a bank can give you lending on it, you don't have a huge pro forma, but at the same time, you show them a lease. Hey, here's one of your lease. This is their track record. That's also going to really, really help them in that direction. Because really what the bank is concerned about, number one, are they going to lose money? Well, if you're making money, then you probably won't lose money. And number two, are they going to make money? Another thing that you're going to have to worry about with commercial loans is, do you have the amount to pay for rent and double that? So let's say, your mortgage. So let's say your mortgage for the commercial loan is $2,000 a month. Do you have $4,000? That's another criteria that they have. They want you to have double coming in order to pay off that mortgage, not like a regular conventional loan. Conventional loan is just, oh yeah, do you have enough money? Okay, great, you're good. No, they want to make sure you have double that. So there's other stipulations. And here's a big thing though. Every single bank is different. Don't think, I called one bank and they told me this criteria, these terms. That's their criteria, their terms from their lenders. You call up as many banks until you can get the job done.
I think that was a big aha for me yesterday when Destiny was talking, Joe. She was sharing the fact that she had no other financial relationships with this bank other than the commercial loans that she was taking out, which I think for me was a myth. I've not purchased anything with commercial lending yet. And so for me, I had this roadblock. Well, I'm gonna have to move everything into this local bank and all my assets are gonna have to be there in order for them. And she shrugged, and it seems like you're kind of validating there was nothing about that in what you just said. And so that's from my perspective, something I'm learning about.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious to know, Dustin, your opinion on people getting into real estate investing. I find that when I'm talking to people, sometimes there's this dichotomy between you've got to be able to go out there, take action, and be willing to do it. Yes, there's always some risk involved. And on the other end of the spectrum, be smart about the way you go about it. Don't let yourself get underwater on the first deal or second deal. What kind of general high-level advice would you give to somebody so that they have confidence proceeding forward without setting themselves up for failure?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I can literally teach anybody how to invest in real estate, but getting them over that hurdle to realize that number one, they can do it. Number two, that they should do it. Number three, that they're going to do it. I can't do that for them. They have to do that on their own. Now, to get over that hurdle, here's what I had to do. Obviously, I had a big catalyst of losing my job, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. But before that, it's really just getting that first deal. Now, you're going to hear lots and lots of people tell you this, that first deal is always the hardest, because just like doing anything brand new, it's going to be difficult, especially something like putting thousands of dollars into something you don't know for certain if it's going to work. I'll give you an example about my wife and myself. So I understood the business model. I was teaching my wife before we bought our first property. I was showing her how to do, like, how we're going to manage it, how we're going to make money, basically everything. I was literally walking her through everything. From that, she still was very, very hesitant. I eventually talked her into being okay with buying that first property. Once we bought that first property, she saw the passive income coming in, and she realized, okay, it's working. Now we can get another one. And then it's working. Now, fast forward, a little while ago, I bought, after we had 30 plus properties, about a year or two ago, I bought 3 single family homes and a duplex, all in one from a transaction from another investor. And I came home and I said, hey, honey, I just bought three single family homes and a duplex. She's all, okay, good. Because she knows the business model works. Now, for me, I absolutely think that it is wise to find somebody like a coach, a mentor, somebody who's literally done it. Like, talk to somebody from like Keller Williams. It's Keller Williams, right? That's your guys' company. I didn't want to say it wrong.
Yeah,
I know.
Yep, you're right. Keller Williams.
Because I remember Keller, but I was like, is it Williams? Okay, anyways. So Keller Williams. Talk to anybody at Keller Williams, especially ones that do investing. Like, you might know people. I know Dave and Joe, you guys probably know good investors. You guys are good investors yourself. If somebody's getting started, say, ask them, hey, can I take you up to coffee, buy you lunch, like give a little bit. Like, here's something that now, after looking back now, if somebody comes to me and says, Dustin, can I buy you coffee and pick your brain? I'm like, well, that's my time. That takes a lot of time to do that. What I do though, instead, like I would almost say no to that. What I do though, instead, if somebody comes to me, and I've had people say, hey, Dustin, can I come work in your business for free? I'll cold call, I'll run numbers, I'll do all this stuff for free because I really want to learn. I'm like, yes, you're providing benefit to me and I'm able to help you. It's a mutual thing. So if somebody's going to get started, number one, find somebody that's going to help you to learn, but also give back or give to them so that you're not just taking. That's the last thing that investors want.
Really good advice.
From there,
really
awesome. Get your first property. Once you get that first property, I kid you not, most of my students, I have the Real Estate Wealth Builders membership where I do group coaching and all the courses and stuff. They buy the first property. It takes them good, maybe 3 to 6 months to buy the first property. The second property literally comes like the next month. Like, oh, we got our second property. All right. I'm like, good, because you built the business. You have other people sending you deals. You have all this stuff moving. Now you have it moving. Now it just keeps growing on its own.
Yeah. I couldn't agree. I mean, from my personal experience and the experience that I hear from you and other people, it's like, it's the same thing. And so it's like, just get over the edge. And, I hear a lot of people that I trust and respect, Joe, even just say, like, even if that first deal isn't a home run, right? Most of the time it's going to be a single, or maybe it is going to be something where you vet the property management out wrong and you end up losing money, or you miss something when you're doing the pro forma. All these things can be helped if you have someone beside you that's, experienced. And if that happens, like, just like we coach in real estate too, it's like, go to the worst possible place. Like, what's the worst possible thing that happens? You lose money for a few months and then you put it on the market and you sell. Can you recover from that? And a lot of us have the good fortune of being able to recover from something like that. And I think it 9 times out of 10 beats never getting started before, at least I know we're of all that opinion.
Right. Yeah.
So Dustin,
I 100% agree.
So Dustin, you've given us so much great information today. I'm curious, like, what's next on the horizon for you? Are you continuing to try and scale to over the 30 plus? Are you wanting to go to 100, or what's next for you?
Yeah. So what's next for me is multifamily. I mean, I love Monopoly, the game Monopoly. You buy land, get a house, and then you eventually get more, and you eventually get hotels, which I was really blessed. Recently, I invested in a syndication, a actually not it's hotels, 2 hotels, 2 extended stay hotels. Looks fantastic. So I was able to invest with a syndicator, friends of mine. So I'm investing money with them. But as far as scaling my own personal residential property business, I'm absolutely doing it. Whenever any good deal comes along, I'm going to buy it. And here's the great thing. The reason why I could do that is because it takes very, very little time out of my life because I've already built the business. I get emails all the time from wholesalers, realtors from everywhere that I invest, sending me deals. I just, sip my coffee, look at it and say, okay, I'll buy that one. It takes me maybe, an hour of my time to buy that house. And then I just put other people to work. So yes, absolutely. Going from single family, going into residential, 4 units, 4 units, and then getting into multifamily is fantastic. And so just constantly growing. But here's a good thing on top of that. So as I was quitting my job, my goal was to quit my job in 10 years. I beat it. I was like 9 years total is when that I eventually, once I made the decision, remember I started businesses and invested in all that stuff. After 9 years, my goal was to quit my job. After I did that, I was like, man, I'm done. I need a new goal. And so now after investing, it's changed because I did make a goal. You guys would probably appreciate this. I made a new goal because I just needed something to strive for because it was fun. Go golf. I didn't do anything. I'd go golf, go to the gym, buy a property, go golf, go to the gym, buy a property. It was good, but I didn't feel like I was really helping anybody. And so I created Master Passive Income. And with that, coaching people. So now what my goal was originally with buying real estate was now quitting my job to making $1 million a year in profit from all my businesses. And then after doing it for like a year or two, I was like, I'm so not driven with this goal. Like, money is great. Don't get me wrong, but we have enough. We don't need that much. It'd be great to have. It's just a monetary goal. Like we can hit that. It's a number we can hit, but I was not driven. Now, what I am driven though, is how many people I can help to invest in real estate and how many people I can get them over that hurdle to start buying properties. Now, my goal is to get 1,000 people investing in real estate, buying rental properties, changing their life. I have hundreds of students now, and it's so amazing. One of my students just the other day said, hey, Dustin, about 6 months after I buy 2 or 3 more properties, I can quit my job. I'm like, yes, that's so much more rewarding for me now. It's not about the monetary thing. It's about how many more people I can help.
I absolutely so appreciate that answer. You're literally changing people's lives. I want to transition us into the last segment of our show, which is 3, 2, 1 action. It's the same 3 questions we ask every single guest. Here we go.
Question number 1, Dustin, who is the one person who has had the biggest impact on your business and why?
Yeah, totally. The very first book that I read that got me out of the quote unquote rat race, he uses this, Robert Kiyosaki is like when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now there are plenty of other great books, but I give this the most credit because this literally woke me up. It was like, oh my goodness, working for my entire life and eventually retirement 65, 70 years old and my life's almost gone. That's horrible. Robert Kiyosaki is definitely by far the number one person that got me to where I'm at today. If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be here.
Joe and I say all the time that you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with in any aspect of your life. And Joe frequently references the fact that doesn't have to be someone who's physically with you in the room. And I think that's a perfect example of that. Robert Kiyosaki, it kind of answers question number 2, which is what is the book that has had the biggest influence on your life? And since you already mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is there another one that has significantly helped you think like a business owner?
I'll give you 2 more. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, obviously. Another fantastic one is Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clausen. Written a long time ago. It's a fiction book teaching business principles. It is phenomenal. Like that changes the way you see the world.
That is the book that I give every single person who tells me that they're working on finances in their life. I just gave away 3 copies to, people on my leadership staff. And I love Richest Man in Babylon. The way that it teaches finance is such a great start into that journey. Okay. And what's the second one?
Oh, great minds think alike, Dave. So that's great. The second one is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And that is by Dale Carnegie. Fantastic book. I mean, I've literally either read it or listened to the audiobook like 5 or 6 times because every time I do, I learn something that is going to help me in my business. And it changes the way I affect people. And thinking about how now my new goal is to get 1,000 people to be investing, serving people. I found the more people that I serve, whether it buy a new property that I can serve somebody in a new good house that they pay, lower mid rents, but take care of them for a really good place, or teach them how to invest in real estate, or show them whatever it might be. The more people that I serve, the better my life gets and the better other people's life gets. So my goal now is to serve. Now I'll quickly add one more thing I'll tell you the 4 legacies that we should try to strive for leaving. I know you got a third question, but I'm really long-winded, but this is something that I just love.
No worries.
So, number 1, we have a legacy of money. In our lives, we want to have money in our lives so that we can afford the things that we want. We want to have that legacy. The second one is a time legacy. We want to have the time back to do whatever we want. So first we start with money, which helps us to cover that. Then that money helps us to have the time. Once you get that time back, then you can do whatever you want because you have the money and the time. The third one is relationships. So money helps you get time. Time helps you to have better relationships. These relationships are your friends, your family, your spouse, your kids. You're building up and helping other people. So that's the third legacy. And then that leads into the last legacy, which is the service legacy. Once you get to this point, this is when you feel so much more fulfilled, where you're now serving more people. So that money leads into time leads into relationships, and then that relationships leads into service. When that service literally is encompassing everything, your life, you just feel like you're so much more helpful, much more just blessed to be able to help people because you're where you are. And that's literally why I love doing stuff like this, coming on great podcasts and great talking to great guys like you.
Well, I love that answer. And I wrote all those down. That's the first time I've heard it like that. And that's a great segue right into the very last question we have for you, Dustin, which is, as you know, this is the All In podcast where we encourage our listeners to take what they've heard today and put it into action. So what's the one thing that you recommend our listeners go do today to begin moving the needle forward in their investment portfolio?
Well, like I said, I can teach anybody how to invest in real estate, but getting them over that hurdle to actually do it, they have to do it on their own. Now, I'll give you a quote. This is a quote that really got me going as well. Was, when is the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was 20 years ago. The next best time is literally today. Now, if somebody hasn't got started, you don't want to be looking 20 years from now, wishing, oh my goodness, when I was listening to Dave and Joe's awesome podcast, I wish I would have started back then. You don't want to be like that. You want to start now. Now, on top of just starting now, my idea is on top of that, you're starting now, get some education, get some coaching, because we all go to college. We spend 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000 on education. Go with Keller Williams and start learning. Like they'll probably, they'll teach you everything that you need to do. You can become a realtor, as well as get around Dave and Joe and start learning, like with my podcast, with my shows, all my coaching. If you get around people that have done it, that literally can give you the roadmap to do it, they're not going to just help you to save money. They're also going to help you to make money and accelerate the speed at which you can eventually get there. Like the lady that you said, 3 years to get to 30 properties. That's phenomenal. You want to be around people like that are going to help you, encourage you. And you don't want to be around naysayers, like your aunt, like that's your great aunt said, oh, you don't want to do that. I did that.
Right.
The tenants destroyed the property. Don't be around naysayers. Be around the people that have done it, that are going to help you get there too.
100% agree. It makes me think of James Clear in Atomic Habits, where he talks about the society, the environment that you are in is one of the most critical factors in adjusting our habits. And if our habit is to become a full-time investor, just like you, Dustin, we need to be around people who that is the habit of their life. You've provided such great information today. I know our listeners are going to want to connect with you again. What's the best place for them to go to do just that?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I have a real estate investing course I literally just gave away for free. Do you mind if I share that with everybody?
Not at all. Go ahead.
Awesome. So I'll give you my real estate investing course literally for free. If you text the word rental, RENTAL, to 33777, rental to 33777. I'll literally give it to you, show you how to build the business first, find an area of the country to invest, make $250 a month in passive income, how to scale the business. I'll literally give it to you. You could also go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course, all one word, /free course. I'll literally give it to you. Plus, I have my Master Passive Income podcast, Master Passive Income YouTube channel. It's literally just me teaching. That's, like I said, I need to give out so much information to get people over that hurdle. So yeah, you can follow me, all that. And also, I remember, so we're in Arizona. I'm in Phoenix. Actually, I'm in Peoria. That's where I live. I live in Pierre. So if everybody probably knows the area, I'm right off of 101 and 87th Avenue in Bell. So 87th Avenue in Bell. So I'm really close, like all of us investors here. But I'm also even putting on a real estate investor conference. So for everybody that is a part of Keller Williams, everybody's part of Joe and Dave's network, I definitely want you to come to the conference. And it's in March 10th through the 12th. And it's literally a no sales pitch conference. If you go to most sales pitch or most conferences for real estate, you run to the back and go visit $80,000 or $20,000, whatever. This is literally, we're building a community. And so you see, Dave and Joe, super genuine guys just like that. Like we all want to help each other, from syndications to multifamily, mobile homes, land investing, rental properties, Airbnb. So this conference is called Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. And so I'll give everybody, if you go to rewbcon.com, REWBCON.com, I will give you $50 off if you use the promo code ALLIN. So you can say, hey, I'm a part of Dave and Joe's network. Here's All In. I'll give you $50 off a ticket. It's going to be here in Phoenix, downtown Phoenix. There's no reason not to come. We're having 27 speakers. Literally, they have their own podcasts, YouTube channels, coaching students, all that sort of stuff. We already have 150 people flying in from all over the country, as well as sponsors. It's going to be a fantastic conference.
Well, that's super generous of you, Dustin. Thank you so much. We'll make sure that link and all the links that he referenced are in the show notes for today's episode. So don't forget, $50 off for the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference using code ALLIN. Dustin, thank you so much for spending time with us. This is a lot of fun. Can't wait to grab coffee with you and be together soon. And hey, have an awesome day, man.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate having me on the show.
Guys, this has been another episode of the All In Podcast. As always, go play All In.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the All In Podcast. We want to invite you to find all of today's resources from our show page at aipodcast.co. We also ask that you take just 1 minute to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. This is how we grow and how we're able to bring you the best content each and every week. Now go play All In.